Hi everyone. So I have spent the last week or so just working with the wands. I pulled the suit of wands out of a few different decks, actually several decks, and just to sort of look with new eyes in a way at the story that each artist is showing for that suit. The story is to me very clear in the Smith Waite deck, so I pulled that out to talk about that and. So as you know, the wands, represent the fire suit, and that suit speaks of, spiritual creativity and passion. Really, what drives us and our will to create, to love, and to move forward. So let's take a look. So in the first card, of course, it's the ace, and we see the big hand coming out of the sky with the wand, and that to me sort of gives an indication that the impulse, that the aces are always new beginnings. So this new beginning of this impulse is sort of like divine inspiration. Now I know in the Marseille decks it's only the swords and the wands that have the hand, but in the writer, the artist did choose to use the hand for every ace in the deck. So we see the passion that's just starting, that new idea, that new feeling that is going to propel us forward into a venture. So let's start the journey here with the two. So now this guy, in essence, he's holding on to two pieces of fire. Very powerful. But let's break down the image here. So there are two wands. He's holding one. The other wand is secured to the wall of his castle. And that's interesting, because to me that says that he's already accomplished with great confidence some other projects, and now that the project stands on its own and it's self-supportive, it's supporting him, and it's helping to propel him forward to start something new. Let's see what else. He is holding a globe in his hand. Now, I've often heard people say that it's the idea of, you can do anything. You have the world in your hand. Literally have the world in your hand. You can just go ahead. It's a very strong card. But there's also a slightly different take, I think, on it. And in a sense here, like he could be just channeling this fiery energy through himself to put out something into the world. So it's, I think both interpretations can be valid. Of course, each card is going to have so many different meanings depending on your reading and your question. But here we're just kind of looking at what the artist has given us. So another important symbol here is we have the lily and the rose, which is a commonly seen alchemical symbol of two different forces coming together to create something. So when you see that, sometimes you'll see this card as in different decks, or to even show up as relationship or partnership, because of those two different forces coming together. And it is, giving an indication that it's necessary to respect each different opposing idea in order to have something and to move forward and to create something, which we'll see in the three. Threes are always very creative. And this card is just loaded with the ideas of creativity. You can see by the fiery colors that she chose here, the reds and the yellows, even the water. Okay, so he's looking out in the water. Actually, in the two, this man was also looking out over the water, right? But here, the water is not blue. It's a golden color with oranges and reds in it. So even that water, even the unconscious, is showing creativity and passion. So we have the guy with the three wands, and there are three ships in the water, sort of representing, a ship for each wand. He's sending these ideas, he's sending this out into the world and expanding his view and expanding his vision. Something really interesting that I have never seen that I never remember seeing in another deck here. Okay, so let's look at his attire. He is, he's wearing the robe, this red passion here, and he has a banner here, which does seem to have a pattern that might speak to nobility. But what I really find interesting here is, this is what I've never seen before, is his arm. It looks like a knight's armor, so he may be a knight. And if that is the case, it brings to me even more of an idea of action and moving forward. So a lot of his plans are being set into motion. And let's see what happens in the next card. The 4 brings structure. Here we see a card of celebration, and it's always just a happy card, and I'm really glad when it shows up in a reading. And again, something I don't remember seeing in another deck, but we see here a bridge. So the water that we saw in the other in cards 2 and 3, now we've crossed over the water. We've crossed the bridge over the water to this new land, and we are building structure. So it's an idea of that creativity is now being manifested into solid structure, and it is a cause for celebration. And because those are two, again, we have the idea of two different forces coming together, the idea of creativity and the idea of something solid and structure. So often in this card you will see it as a marriage, and these people could be celebrating a partnership or marriage, but certainly it's the beginning of the structure that is being erected. Is something to celebrate. We see the castle also in the background, also bringing the idea of support and structure. Now, it's interesting that in this card, none of the others we saw had this, but in this card, Pamela Colman-Smith put the stage, and you'll see that in a few of her cards. And it almost shows the activity taking place behind this, like sort of on the other side of the stage. I do believe, from what I remember, she had worked in theatrical design, so that must have some part to why she did that. Okay, so let's move on again to the 5. Again, this is it's a linear story. You can read this as a story of the ups and downs of a creative venture. So here in the 5s, we see 5 young men in a competition with each other. And you can tell it's a competition because of the way they're dressed. Each one is thinking differently about how they want to go about doing this. So some are wearing polka dots, some are checks or stripes or red and yellow. They're all dressed differently, showing their different ideas of getting this job done. So it's in a venture, sometimes it has to do with, working with other people to really learn how to absorb new ideas, whether it is with other people or whether it's just bringing in new information, for ourselves. One of my favorite interpretations, I didn't pull it out, it is in the Tildwick deck when you see books just stacked up on a chair. So it's sort of that idea of, the different information, being compiled together to create something, to further create something. Now, that competition took place, and here in the 6, we see one man has come up victorious. And for a short time, he can enjoy an easy ride. People in the background also supporting him and giving him kudos. So in many times we do have friends and people in the background sort of helping as we move forward, and this card does show that. Okay, the 7. So now, once again, we are seeing some difficulty. This time it seems a little harder than it did in the 5. And this man is being asked to hold his ground. It's time to really reassess what it is that he wants, and to be confident in that and stand the ground. And many decks do show that, they'll show the wands, but they don't show any people holding them. So it's open for interpretation, because, perhaps it is these stresses could be from his own imagination or sort of his own doing. Either way, whether it's external or internal, he needs to, get that confidence, stand his ground, and focus on continuing the project, which is what we see essentially in the 8th card, when these wands are being flown through the air. Now, it's a really nice, bright day, so it doesn't seem that they're coming as an attack so much, but more as that focused intent, now that he has stood his ground and gained that confidence. And you'll often hear people say that when this card comes in, things are moving quickly, the energy is moving quickly, or messages could be coming in quickly. It does have a bit of a mercurial essence to this card. And I think one of the reasons they say it's moving quickly is because, as you can see the wands flying through the air, they're ready to hit the ground at any moment. They're not going to stay in the air long. It's really important not to interfere with this trajectory and just to let the energy flow because it's strong. Okay, in the 9, so here we are again, with some difficulties. And in this card, she's showing the man's face that looks worried and anxious. And he has a bandage on his head. So physically and emotionally, this man has suffered stresses in the past. And once again, he's being asked to hold tight. Because it's a 9, and the 9s are so much about, self-sufficiency. This card, to me, shows the need for really pulling that from that inner strength to continue on this passionate journey. And he's ever vigilant, drawing on that inner strength. As you can see, there's no one there with him. Oh, by the way, again, we have the stage there. And in the 10 as well, you'll see the stage. It's a different color, but it's that same idea. I don't know exactly why, and I know there are different reasons that people have shown about that, but I personally don't know exactly why some cards have it and some don't. But what's interesting here to me is that these men are dressed very much alike, very similarly, with this sort of that orangey red tunic that they're wearing. So, I don't know, maybe there's some type of tangential collaboration that these guys have. And this guy is sort of just clearing the path, taking away the wands, and walking them to that last little bit, of this journey, this difficult journey. He's straining, his back is down, and his vision is obscured, so he isn't really maybe seeing how stressful or how much burden he has taken on. But, by the time we get to the 10s, it is a culmination of the energy. And here, that the fire, 10 pieces of fire, it is a lot to take on. And it is showing that the fire, the embers maybe are on their way down, they're starting to wind down, which is why he's really just at the edge of the stage there. And I would say there's sort of a similar but more condensed version that shows up in the courts. So with the page, we see him dressed in the colors of the fire suit, the reds and the kind of yellowy golds. On his tunic, there are salamanders, which represent the fire, one of the animals that represent the fire element. And he's standing in this ground here where you can see there's nothing going on. There are no structures, there's no life really. You see the 3 mounds, bring again that number 3, sort of creativity. And it's almost as if he's staking his claim on this ground. There's again an idea of a new impulse. Now when you see the knight coming in, he's coming in here, this way here, he's coming in from the opposite direction, but again we see the 3 mounds there. And it's sort of, in my opinion, like a continuation here. Now the knight he is going to go after this land that the page has spotted. He's going to take control of this territory. And then as time goes on, then you see the queen, and she is now enjoying a home on that territory that has been captured. And you see, again, those 3 mounds there. So it's sort of an indication. And of course, she has lots of symbols of her suit here. We see her throne has the lions. You know, these are symbols of the sun. And the sunflower, she's holding her wand. She's got lions up there as well. And then she has the small kitty cat here, which is a softer side of that solar energy, of the fire energy, a warmth. It's showing a warmth and, you know, a tamer side of the fire energy. And the king is, of course, in control of all of the manifestations of this suit. And there is the salamander and the lions and salamanders behind him there on this throne. And he is strong and victorious. So that is, you know, that's the story of the wands from this deck. The story is pretty much the same from each deck. It's just that some artists are going to show, like in this deck, it's very much about venture, which can be a metaphor for spiritual creativity or relationships. In other decks, like the Hidden Realm, it's a very personal interpretation of the same story. You know, I guess I won't go through all of it, but it's just a beautiful, warm interpretation. Look at the three of Wands, showing, you remember, the 2 forces coming together in the 2. Something very beautiful was created here. And I want to show you the 8. The 8 of Wands is just remarkable. You know, rather than the wands flying through the air, what has happened here as she has focused her intent, she's using a bow and arrow to really set that passion in motion. It's outstanding and beautiful. So anyway, I've had just a great time working with the suit, and I may do that again in a few weeks. I may pull out, maybe I'll try another suit and just work with that suit for a while. But it's been a fun time doing this. Hope you enjoyed it. I will see you soon. Bye for now.